I suspect that many of us became more familiar with the digital world during the COVID lockdown. We suddenly discovered Zoom and YouTube live streaming, etc. But I wonder how digital you think you are. On a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being not very and 10 being very, how digital are you? Pause for a moment and maybe write down your thoughts. So what number did you give yourself? Often we think of the digital, we tend to think it's just about social media, but it's so much more than that. Let's look at some examples of the digital in our lives. I belong to the generation that got excited when Channel 4 gave us 4 TV channels. But nowadays, you can choose from hundreds of TV channels and streaming services like Netflix and Disney+. We now choose when we watch programmes, we record them and rarely watch them live. We can binge watch a series, you don't have to wait for the weekly episodes. You may have a digital radio, listen to audiobooks, download podcasts and stream music. We shop online, you can bank online, order food or takeaways online, or through apps on your phone. We use touchscreens at supermarkets or to sign into the doctor's surgery. You can read magazines, books, newspapers online. We have wearables that tell us when we have reached our 10,000 steps or how well our heart is beating. And of course, if you apply for benefits in the UK, you have to do that online. So digital is much more than just social media. We live in a digital world and have digital lives. You may have heard these two words, digital natives and digital immigrant. Digital natives are the people who have been born into the digital world and who are the native speakers of the digital language, of computers, video games and the internet. And the rest of us are digital immigrants. Digital immigrants like me learn to adapt to their environments, but we also carry a footprint from our past. So for an example, I like to print off PDFs. I prefer books to a Kindle. I like to hold a hymn book as opposed to look at a screen. But I've also adapted to some of the habits of the digital natives. When I want to know how something works, I might Google it rather than read a manual. Or if I need a recipe, I'll watch a YouTube video rather than go to a cookbook. But the main difference between digital natives and digital immigrants is the way we process information. Digital natives are used to receiving information really fast. They like to parallel process and multitask. They prefer graphics before their text rather than the opposite. They function best when networked. They thrive on instant gratification and frequent rewards. And this is interesting because I think it has implications for how we do online church. How we encourage digital engagement in social media so that we help digital natives to develop faith and spirituality online. So handheld devices, your smartphone or your tablet, have perhaps provided the biggest change in the way in which we engage in the digital. We no longer need to sit in front of a computer to be connected. With our phones in our pockets and notification enabled, we can be connected all of the time. The mobile phone has almost become an extension of our hands. This image of Maslow's hierarchy of needs, with Wi-Fi and battery added as the essentials to the bottom, is interesting as it articulates the modern-day need for instant and free access to Wi-Fi and the need for somewhere to recharge our devices. So we can see that the digital is not something external to us. It is in fact part of us and shaping our lives and the world. When we meet online, you see the real embodied me, not an image of me. We are always embodied, but we know that it feels different in the digital space, and so we need to learn new and different ways of interacting with each other, especially when we meet online. Christine Hines suggests and says this, that we do not necessarily think of going online as a discrete form of experience, but we instead often experience being online as an extension of other embodied ways of being and acting in the world. And so we begin to see this sense of digital developing in all our lives, a sense of the digital human being embodied and embedded in the everyday.